Lab 1B, Attack System Import. In this lab, what we're basically going to do is install Kali Linux, or at least download a VMware image of Kali Linux and import it into VMware Player. This will give you the basic importing process that we will go through when we bring in our target systems as well. What we really want to do here is one, let's understand first what Kali Linux is. It's a Debian instance of Linux distro, which is basically used for digital forensics or penetration testing and such. It has all of our tools compiled and built in. It is a I guess a continuation on from the backtrack that we have used in previous courses and labs. Kali Linux is a new version or flavor, and this is now what is supported by offensive security, and it was basically backtrack rewritten. Let's go ahead and find it, download it, and see what we're looking at here. Basically want to open up a Google search bar, type in Kali Linux. We're going to go download. You want a VMware image, and you'll see probably top of the list there, it looks like, will be offensivesecurity.com Kali Linux VMware ARM image download. So if you take that link there, you're going to come to a repository for Kali Linux downloads. You can choose 64-bit or 32-bit depending on what's going to fit your system and your configuration. I'm using a 64-bit. I would like this 64-bit of Kali Linux. Expand here. You can download a torrent if you want to run through a torrent file. You can download an image, which is just basically the VMware file itself. You will also see there's a SHA checksum there. So when you download, if you want to confirm the binaries are what they should be and they're not altered, you got a SHA that you can check there. So I'm going to select download image. You'll see that it's starting to roll. Now keep this in mind, this is a 2 gig file. It's going to take a little bit of time to download, especially if you have a slow internet connection. If your internet connection is an issue, you may want to head up closest open lab you have and download this file, transfer it to a thumb drive, and take it home. Now once your download is finished, you'll see it is in a .7z format. This is a 7-zip container that we will be extracting the VMware image from. To do so, let's head back over here to Google. We basically want to look for a 7-zip download link. That will take you to the 7zip.org site. You'll see that they have an exe listed here for Windows versions. They have a 64-bit that's going to be listed as well. Pick the one that works for you for your instance of what you're using. Go ahead and download. Double click the exe and install. Here you'll end up at the 7-zip file manager interface. We will use the icons within here to browse to our actual download, and mine is just sitting underneath the download directory. Once I get here, I'll double click it and see, okay, I do have the file inside there, so let's go ahead and extract. This is where it's going to dump it out to, see users and then my downloads directory. Hit OK there and let that run. That's going to take a few minutes. Again, this is a 2.5 gig file that's being extracted. So I'm going to pause the video here and we'll come back once it's complete. Alright, once your extraction finishes, you can close out of 7-zip. We won't need that for right now. We can come back over here and look inside your wherever you extracted it to. Again, mine I just placed right into the downloads directory. This is the files that will actually create our VM instance. So I'll grab these guys, cut, and right on the root of my C drive I keep a directory called VMs, and I'll just paste them right inside there. Double click and you're looking for this .vmx file. If you double click on that, it's going to open up VMware Player and you will be good to go. Another way of going about opening this file is if you open up VMware Player, one, I'm going to remove this initial one that's in here from the library. To do so, I simply right-clicked and hit Remove from Library. I'm going to open a virtual machine. We're not going to create. This is already a created VM. We're just going to import it. So I'm going to open a virtual machine. I will look directly in that folder in my C drive, VMs, Kali Linux, and it picks that VMX file out for you, and it is imported and ready to go. Now, something to keep in mind here, each VM will have its own individual virtual machine settings. Okay, these settings are specific to the VM that you have selected at that time. When I open this VM up, you'll see that by default, when this VM was created, it was suggested that it uses 2 gigs of memory, has one processor available, 25 gig hard drive space, and it wants a NAT setting for the virtual machine. Remember, NAT means that it is going to use the host system's physical address, and it does have connection to your local network as well as to a public interface, a public network, if you are connected to one. Also keep in mind that this 2 gigs of memory might be too much for some systems. If you have a laptop and it only has 2 gigs of memory available to it, you're going to want to drop this down to 1 gig, because as mentioned earlier, here's what happens. If you specify that this system has 2 gigs available to it and your physical machine only has 2 gigs available to it, you are then allocating all of your physical machine's resources to this VM, and what happens is this VM is depending on VMware Player to run, which is depending on your host system's RAM. So you're going to get yourself in a bad situation there where your machine is going to run horribly slow. You don't want to do that. You want to balance this out so that it's appropriate and works with your current settings. Also remember that this does not mean at this point in time that these resources are gathered from your host and simply moved to this VM. We haven't powered this VM on, so at this time it's doing nothing. It's using no resources. I'm going to leave mine at 2 gig, and I'm going to hit OK there. When he gets powered on and he grabs a hold of your system resources, if you notice that the settings aren't working real well for you, it's only temporary. All you have to do is come to this VMware Player, shut down this VM, and all of the resources are relinquished back to your host system, and you're good to go, just as you were previously. And when we configure any of these settings, it is only applied towards the selected VM machine. At this point in time, I think we're good to go. I'm going to go ahead and hit Play Virtual Machine. You'll see that the Kali Linux instance wants to start up, and it's saying, hey, I'm noticing that this wasn't created on this system. Was it moved or copied? You could say I copied it. That's probably the safest route to go. And it wants to do a software update for VMware tools for Linux. Go ahead and hit download and install. Once VMware Tools is finished installing, the prompt will go away. You'll be sitting here at a desktop, and you'll be at a point where you can log in. At this point in time, I'm going to stop this video. We'll pick this up with Lab 1C.